I can still hear it, so there's feedback coming from somewhere. G'day, everyone. We're just trying to get organised here. Let me just check. It might be me, though. So let me just check it's not me.
It might be me. Let me throw the headphones in.
It was me.
Was it?
Lucky I know what I'm doing. I'm hosting and I don't know what I'm doing. That's a crack up.
I actually have the delay on the Skype too, which is weird.
Oh, it's coming through. I think it's coming through okay from my side. So yeah, yeah, I think it's all right.
Oh, you're good now. All right. You're good.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a YouTubey thing. Well, g'day everyone. Look, we're on pre-show. I wanted to welcome the Everything Man here. Now, did you want me to be called that or Anthony today? It's up to you. Shall we stay Everything Man?
Whatever you want to do.
Well, we can keep it at that so that people know where to go anyway if they want to follow you. We've got a stack of people popping in live and we'll go to the chat in a second, guys. But we're going to have around about another 5 to 6 minutes or so of just sort of pre-show, a little bit of a chat. Now, it is the Behind the Photo show. Normally we have Aaron on, but Aaron at the moment is obviously living in Puerto Rico and they've got earthquakes. He contacted me last night to say they still haven't stopped. So there's power up and down. I don't think they've had power in a lot of the places. So at the moment, we're not sure when Aaron will get back live. I know we're meeting at WPPI, but hopefully once Aaron gets back up into it again, we'll get the show full on with Aaron again each week. But it's great today because I've been friends with this guy for a while. We follow each other on YouTube and we have chats often on Instagram and everywhere else. So welcome, mate. It's good to see you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, no problem at all. And we were just discussing before we came on, I was picking his New York accent. You know how I'm always saying I need coffee? I love it.
Can I get a cup of coffee?
Oh, no, I love it. Oh, I love it. Oh, now, if you see too, Anthony, if you also see that in the chat, you'll be able to see the chat going on as well. Have you got that open in there as well, just so you can see what people are saying to you?
Yep, I see him.
Yep, that's good. All right. So let me switch over to that and we can have a chat and just say hello to a few people that are joining us today. So Hero said, finally got the notification. We were talking about that just before, that YouTube can be a real pain for notifications. So it's good that you finally got it. Jamie.
YouTube is a pain for everything, man. Oh. It's a hassle to do anything on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. And every time I get used to something, they change it. It can do your head in, actually, but, you've got to live with it. Jamie's saying, hello, howdy everyone from northern New South Wales. It's a very hot day today. We're around about 100 degrees at the moment. We're meant to be getting some rain, though, so where they're hoping that it'll be enough rain to put out some of the fires. So keep fingers crossed that we don't miss it. George is saying it must be Tuesday night. Greetings from New Jersey. G'day, George. Thank you for joining us. Barry's here as well. Jeffrey's saying hello from Brisbane. G'day, Gerald. Gerald is organising the trip for me when I'm coming to the States next month, so I'm so looking forward to that. You're not going to WPPI, are you, at all?
No,
not
I'm not going.
I'm not sure I understand.
Sure, Siri. Nivak is also saying, hey guys, audio is good here, thanks for letting us know. Jeffrey said that title just said switch to EOS-R, David. No, it's not me, but it's the Everything Man has switched, and we're going to discuss that today because remember, today is not the Sony show, this is the Behind the Photo show, so this is open to any camera brand today. So we're going to discuss that and also going to talk about some things like Osmo actions and things like that, and the new, a couple of other devices that are coming out new as well.
We got Jersey in the house.
Yes. Mohammed said, hello, David and Mr. Everything Man. Jeffrey said, I have the EOS-R and love it, and I'm not surprised. It's a great camera, and we'll sort of have a great discussion about that as well. John Guest said, hey, David. Altrix also here. Nivak said, coffee. I know, that's what I always say. I love it. Jeremy said, hello from, is that Boise, Idaho? Is it Boise, Idaho? I'm not sure. Boise, is it? Boise, Idaho. Kent, Wedding Film Photography, said, hey, Dave from London. G'day, Kent. How are you? Diana's here as well, Entire Woman TV. Hi, Diana. Good to see you back. I know there was a thumbs down. We got a thumbs down before it even started. What a crack up. Jeremy said, "Oh my God, a thumbs down. Dude clicked it before the show started." They did too. I love it. Gary's here as well saying hello. James is saying good afternoon from Mississippi. Joe is saying, thinking of Aaron, I love my island of Puerto Rico. Yeah, I know we're thinking about him as well, so hopefully Aaron's okay. I mean, he's fine, luckily, but, you know, it must be a nightmare having that sort of happening to you all the time. Langston's here as well. Creative Film said the version 2 of the EOS-R will probably be a winner. And, yeah, we may talk about that too, what Canon may be thinking about doing with sort of cameras that are going to be announced probably this year. Joe said, also thinking of the precious koalas. I know, and thank you so much, guys. We're up to $8,000 now with the donations. I have passed that through. I'll tell you exactly while we're on the pre-show who it's gone to. I've now transferred the GoFundMe over to, let me just see who it was, because I can never remember. I've transferred the money over to View Beneficiary. I've transferred it over to Vets for Compassion. So they're what they are is they're vets that go out to the field and treat the animals right from the beginning. And it's you know, they don't have money. They're not government funded or anything like that. They're all volunteers. So we're up to $8,000 now. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just gone off. We're up to $8,000 now. Whether it'll focus.
Nice.
And I've transferred that. Now, I've sent them the invitation, but for some reason there's an issue with it, and we've both contacted GoFundMe to work out what's going on because they can't seem to withdraw the money. But I can't now access it because I've transferred it over to them, but we have notified them. So hopefully that $8,000 will be transferred and they can start helping the kangaroos and other animals very, very soon. So thanks so much, everyone, for that. It was great to get up to that much.
I guess I pronounced it wrong. It says they're all saying Boise, Idaho.
Boise, is it?
Sorry.
Yeah, so Boise. It's Boise, Idaho. Well, I certainly wouldn't have a clue. It's like Boise. Langston said I was supposed to be gone, but shoot got moved until late. Well, at least you could get here, Langston, which is good. How are we going for time? So we've got about another minute and then we're going to start. So thank you all for tuning in. It's going to be a really interesting discussion. I love having guests on. It's great. I mean, we had Casey from Camera Conspiracies not long ago. That was another fun one as well. I find you've got very similar senses of humour, Anthony. It's sort of it cracks me up sometimes. I love it with your bugs when you're walking down the
oh my
through
God.
the grass and stuff.
I can only imagine. I hear they're even worse in Australia. I hear they're like this big, the mosquitoes.
I always like that. So if you haven't subscribed to him, guys, subscribe to him, and I'll put the link down below so you can get that link directly after the show. So I'll make sure I stick the link down where you can subscribe to him. I mean, he's doing fine anyway. He's got you've got well over 10,000 subscribers now, haven't you? Or you're close to 10,000?
Yeah, I just reached it like a week ago.
Yeah, well, that's a real milestone. So that's fantastic, and I'm sure now you're probably going to grow. And you know, and like I said, if you haven't subscribed to him, do, because he has some great, funny, interesting stories. Like I said, putting him and Casey together would be really funny. I think it'd be hilarious, actually. All right,
yeah,
so
that's my boy there. I love Casey, man. That's
he's a classic.
We're as cool as we could be without ever having to meet each other or actually contact one another. But I shout him out all the time on my channel. He shouted me out on his channel. So
yeah, he's cool.
That's a good dude right there.
Yeah, I always get bagged. Now, why did I go then?
Yeah, I just saw you leave.
I know, I'm back. That was weird.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what happened then. I just disappeared for a second. All right, so we're going to start the show, guys. So let me just play the intro. So what time are we now? We're at 9:36, 9:40. Now,
you sure you're good?
Yeah, it'll come up again in a second. It'll be behind, I think, in the thing. Just check. I'll just wait to see before I start the show that it has come back.
Yeah, I don't even see it on my Skype.
So you're not even seeing me on the Skype now? That's weird.
Hey, let me see here.
Let me switch here. I'll just switch to see if I come out. It's hard because you can't see. It takes about 20, 30 seconds to come out. So have I disappeared off Skype, have I?
the audio.
Yeah, it's there. It's back now. So I'm not sure. As long as you can hear me. You're in, so I can see you fine here. But I'll just make sure when I switch back over here in a second before we go up that it's working, that we see both of us together. The hard part here is we've got to wait 20 seconds or so for it to upgrade. Yeah, we're both there, so it's fine. Okay. So, yeah, don't worry about it. You may not be able to see me, but at least you can hear me, can't you? Yeah. Sometimes Skype can do weird things. It can do your head in. At least you should be able to sort of see it on the YouTube, but like I said, it's going to be about 20 seconds or so behind, so it's a bit of a pain. All right, so let me put that in 11, and I'm going to start the show. 11:15. All right, so I'm just going to run the banner, and then we'll start the show.
Sounds good.
Well, welcome everyone. We just had a bit of a pre-show. I'd like to welcome the Everything Man on today. Aaron's missing. How are you, Anthony?
I'm doing great, man. Just living the dream, you know? One day at a time.
Fantastic. We've been talking for a long time, and we thought we'd get together and have a live. Aaron, unfortunately, if you did miss the pre-show, Aaron, like I said, is in Puerto Rico, and they've been having earthquakes and stuff like that. So we're thinking about you, Aaron, and he said to me he's not sure when he's going to be able to get back to YouTube. Probably got no power and things, so he hasn't had it today. So I thought this is a perfect opportunity to have a guest in where we could talk together. Now, why I was particularly interested in having the Everything Man on was because of the fact that I noticed a video that he put up recently. Now, I thought this may be coming because I'd seen a couple of videos prior to that where he was sort of showing that he'd got the Canon EOS-R. Now, what did you use before you had the EOS-R, Anthony? Was it A7 III?
I was on the A7 III, and then I went to the camera store that's near my house just to pick up a stabilized lens, and I saw the A6400 sitting there when it first came out, and I'm like, you know what, let me just buy this just to see what it's like, and if I hate it, I got the return policy, and I wound up loving it. And to be honest with you, I didn't really see a big difference between the IBIS in the A7 III and the A64 with no image stabilization whatsoever. That was kind of one of the main things that drew me away from Sony. I felt like if I wanted to go out and vlog and handhold my camera, I was going to be dealing with rolling shutter and shake. And I really think that the IBIS inside the A7 III and inside all of the Sony cameras to date, hopefully the A7S III is better. I think they're all really made more for photography than they are for actual video, because I don't think they do a good job at all.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because Photomiak has joined in on the chat, and he said, do you know Ike, Photomiak? Have you ever watched his work? He said, we don't need no explanation. We know he switched because he ran out of Sony Kool-Aid to drink. I love it. That's a crack up. So, Photomiak, that wasn't a very nice thing to say about the Sony Kool-Aid, Ike. What are you talking about? I don't know whether you've ever watched Ike before, but he does shoots with some amazing looking women, and he's grown incredibly fast over the last 12 months. I think he had a whole stack of Indians that jumped on board. He was saying he thought at one stage spamming and stuff like that, but he grew incredibly large in 12 months, so he's doing great. So I love it.
What does he shoot at? Is he a Sony shooter?
No, he's Nikon.
Ah, Nikon. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's Nikon. We won't hold that against him, though.
Yeah.
You know. So was it, I mean, there's a couple of things. It was interesting when I saw that you said you did that. And now have you sold all of your Sony gear? Have you got rid of everything that you had?
Everything. I got rid of everything I have. I wanted my channel to be mainly shot in full frame. I was kind of sick of, I started with the full frame and then I wanted to go smaller and lighter, and I kind of just got sick of the compromises that I was having to deal with shooting with APS-C. I I picked up the Olympus EM1 Mark II, and I used that for about a month. And it's a great camera, just not really great for low light. So I was sick of having to switch around to multiple cameras and then dealing with action camera footage when I'm outside trying to vlog just to have good image stabilization. So I've been jumping all over the place trying to find what's right for me. And honestly, man, I'm loving the EOS-R right now. It's doing everything I needed to do.
Now, just so the people that may not know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what your channel is and stuff like that. We will come back to the EOS-R, but sort of tell us a little bit about what, just tell us about you. So let us know for people.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Queens, New York, moved upstate, and I started out with a big background in music, and those dreams kind of didn't seem like they were where I wanted to go in life. And I've always loved camera and tech, and started, saying, maybe I could do something with this YouTube thing. And when I first started out, I was like, I'm not really sure what I want my niche to be. I kind of wanted to go against the grain of what everybody was doing and just talk about everything and anything I wanted to. Hence the name, The Everything Man. A lot of people think it's like this cocky, Mr. Perfect type of name, but it was more along the lines of I want the freedom to talk about whatever I want. But then in the long run, it really just wound up coming back to the whole camera and tech game. And I try to mix in a lot of vlogging style with my reviews and my, my first impressions on videos. And, I try to give a little bit of everything now still. And now that my channel has hit a certain amount of numbers and I do have a somewhat consistent audience, I like to just talk about whatever I want. So you might see some videos on my channel that have nothing to do with camera or tech, but I always try to make it fun and entertaining. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now, and I'm loving the space that I'm in. I'm loving the creative space that I'm in right now.
Well, it is, like I said, I always watch your videos. I love them. And now that I think it's your girlfriend you've added in too, it even adds a bit more interest in there as well, which is great too. I love that too. But look, you've started to, I mean, you've got some fairly decent people that are working with you. I mean, Rode is one, for instance, that I've noticed just recently. That you, do you have a full working relationship with Rode?
There's nothing on paper. I kind of did a video on Rode Wireless Go, and I've been using Rode for years, even before I actually started a YouTube channel. They've always been my go-to microphone company. I mean, I turn down free microphones from companies all the time just because I'm happy with Rode and I have no interest in reviewing any other products as of right now. And so I picked up the Rode Wireless Go, and I did a video on it, and the intro to the video, I was kind of showing Rode like, hey, look at all these microphones I bought from you guys. Why don't you throw something my way, kind of joking around. And Peter Friedman, the founder and CEO of Rode, actually left a comment on that video and left his email. And I was kind of like, this is kind of sketchy, man. I feel like this is a fake account or something like that. There ain't no way this guy is commenting on my video right now. It didn't even have a picture in the avatar or anything like that. So I'm like, I don't know. So the few people that I confided in and I told them about it, they were like, dude, just email them. What's the worst that can happen? It's not going to be, they're not going to hack into your computer or something like that. So I'm emailing Peter and I'm like, sorry for being a little skeptical, but I kind of don't believe this is you. And then he's saying, it's me, mate, it's me. And we went back and forth for about a month where we were still talking. And I'm telling people that are close to me, like, I don't believe it. There's no way it's him. And then, a couple weeks later, I get a big, huge package in the mail with a thank you note from Rode and all these microphones and unreleased microphones. And then they had me test out the little windshields for the Rode Wireless Go for them. I was testing out prototypes, and they just sent me the Video Mic NTG. So it's a great company, man. I don't make any money off of Rode whatsoever. I have no affiliation with them on the business end of things, but I always like, promoting brands that I'm happy with so that I could share the knowledge with other people and maybe they can get something good out of it too.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's a good way to work. See, I have a few things like that where I deal with Tamron, for instance, Australia. They send me a lot of their lenses as well. There's no money involved, and I don't even get free gear or anything like that. But it also gives you the ability to be truthful about what you're saying, which is good because there's nothing there about that bit about you being paid, and therefore you feel like you have to sort of say something good about it.
Right.
I mean, for instance, I just did the Tamron review the other day, and I said at the end of the video that I thought the autofocus in video was incredibly noisy, and that could be an issue with the lenses, and if I was paid by Tamron, for instance, I may not have been able to say that, and that's one good thing about being sort of neutral, and you've got the same thing there with Rode as well, which is great.
Right, yeah, that's one of the things. Like, I'm not gonna shout out the company, but they sent an Amazon company hit me up asking me, it was like a Chinese company or something like that, and they were asking me if I could review some wireless earbuds. And I get hit up from people on Amazon and all these, smaller companies that I'm not even aware of their brand all the time, and I usually turn it down. But I said, you know what, if I can do a giveaway to my audience, if you send me a couple of units, then it'll be worth it for me. But I just have to let you know that I have to give you my honest opinion.
Yeah.
And they said, fine. They sent me the units. Long story short, they were garbage. Everything was good with them except for the actual sound. The sound was just like one of the worst sounds on earbuds I've ever heard. And I emailed the girl back and I said, listen, I got to be honest with you. These sound terrible. And I could do one of two things. I could either not say anything, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like I never got the earbuds. Or I could just give the people my honest opinion on them, but I'm just going to let you know that I'm not feeling the sound on these things whatsoever. And she was like, no, don't even do the review. And I said, fine, fair enough.
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to compromise my character and the trust that people have in what I say is good and what I say isn't, just for a couple of dollars. There's always ways to make money, and you can't
exactly. If you lose your credibility, you lose everything. So that's the main thing that sort of I always think it's I'm always going to tell the truth. So it's just not worth it. Now we're getting a stack of questions too. So guys, we will come back to the questions as well, because I'm going to make sure we'll try and answer everything you're asking about the EOS-R. So what made you decide to go to Canon? I mean, what was the main reason you chose Canon and not Nikon or Fuji or something like that when you wanted to get rid of your Sony stuff?
Yeah, like I said, I bounced around to a lot of companies. I'm a big believer in, well, I'm kind of contradicting myself right now, but I'm a big believer in, make sure you try it out before you go and badmouth it. Now, oddly enough, when the EOS-R was first announced, myself, just like everybody pretty much out there that wasn't a Canon shooter, pretty much gave it the thumbs down and badmouthed it like crazy. But then it was kind of like Canon, this particular camera brought things to the table that I was kind of having problems with the Sony system. Like the A6400, it had a flip screen, but it was a flip-up screen. So then I had to have a small rig shoe relocator to move the microphone to the side of the camera. And I don't know about you, but when I'm out vlogging and stuff like that, I usually use auto white balance because I don't want to focus on my gear. I just want to talk and work on my project. And I kind of do have a little bit of a problem with Sony's auto white balance outdoors when the lighting conditions are changing. I found a lot of green and then magenta tones, and it kind of threw me off. It wasn't a big deal, can be corrected in post. And then Canon announced the RF 15 to 35. And for me, that was like the end-all be-all of lenses. It's everything I've ever looked for in a lens. It's fast. 2.8 on a full frame is still pretty fast. You still get a nice separation between your foreground and your background. It was image stabilized. The EIS inside the EOS-R, even though there's no IBIS, actually works surprisingly well. And then when you pair it up with a good lens that has image stabilization, it really made out for a great buy for me. The flip out screen, the color science, C-Log is extremely easy to grade. You got high bit rates. Yeah. So really the only issue that I have with this camera is the 4K crop. And watching a few videos online, I checked out a video that Peter McKinnon made. Really, if you just upload 1080p onto a 4K timeline and then upload it to 4K in YouTube, after the compression kicks in, you really can't tell. I have a 71-inch TV downstairs, and the first video that I did that with, where I uploaded 1080p to 4K, I was like, let me see if I could see it on this big, huge TV. I saw no type of artifacting. I saw no type of grain or just distortion in the footage and the shadows, anything like that. So I'm like, wow, I really feel like I have a 4K camera now, because if you can't tell the difference and it looks almost as good, then no big deal. But really, mainly it was the lens that did it for me, because, the glass is everything. You should always invest in glass over.
They do make amazing glass. So what glass have you got at this stage?
Right now, I only have two lenses from Canon. I have the RF 15 to 35, which cost me damn near $2,500 US,
Yeah.
which is the most expensive lens I've ever bought in my life. But it's worth it for me, because you're at 2.8 all the way through. So you're at 2.8 at 15, you're at 2.8 at 18, 20, 22, 24, all the way through. So really, it's like you're getting a whole bunch of lenses in one, because you're not losing that fast aperture.
Yeah.
So, I have that, and I picked up this old school 30-year-old 85 f1.8, and performs phenomenal. It's a little loud when focusing, but I don't think with 85 you have to worry about the actual sound of,
No. So is that
the focusing.
is that using the adapter?
The camera.
Is that using your an adapter that came with the camera, or did you have
Yeah,
to?
yeah, it came with it. This came with the whole kit. They were doing the whole special for the holidays. US dollars, I paid 1,400 and change, and you get the adapter kit. I got a nice, actual good quality bag out of it. They came through with a really nice deal, and it was a little hard to turn down. And I'm super happy I picked it up.
See that I initially, when the EOS-R came out, the autofocus was lacking behind the Sonys, but after the recent update, it's very, very close to what Sony's autofocus is now. I think
Right.
you're getting to the point where both the systems really, even Nikon, Canon, and Sony. I still think Sony probably still has an edge in autofocus if you're talking about how quick it is, but they're getting so close now that it's not really an issue anymore. Did you do the update, or was that already updated when you got that camera?
I did do the update. Now there's I believe it's 1.6.0. They just released another update like less than a month ago that I didn't even know about. I didn't see any announcements for it. I just happened to go on Canon's website and check it out. And the autofocus is great. The eye autofocus in the video works really well, but absolutely Sony is the king when it comes to autofocus. Anybody that says anything different than that is just completely wrong, because there is just nothing like Sony's autofocus. That thing locks on you. You could walk 30 feet away and it still has you in sight. So yeah, the EOS-R isn't performing as well as the Sony.
But it's probably good enough though now. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of people now are saying, well, there was a big from what I saw, the eye autofocus, particularly in that last big update that Canon did, was a major difference in how the eye autofocus worked compared to the previous version. So they've worked on it, and it's obviously getting better and better. But there's the glaring thing for me though, and is the lack of the dual card slots. I mean, what do you feel about that? Doesn't bother you, or what?
No, it does. It does bother me a little bit. I do paid gigs. I do a lot of parties, events. I do real estate, video, photography. It does bother me a little bit. Luckily, I have yet to have an actual card fail on me, but I know when the time does come around, I'm going to wish that I had dual card slots. As of right now, it's kind of just a roll of the dice, and luckily I haven't had any issues. I always keep spare cards on me, even though that doesn't help if you lose the footage that you already captured. But yeah, it's a big deal, but it's not as big of a deal for me as I could see it be for others. Do I wish it was in the camera? Absolutely, but what are you going to do? There's always compromises in every single camera on the market.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I recently did a workshop with a wedding photographer. He's been one of the top wedding photographers in the world, Jurvant. He's Australian. I did a workshop with him, and he switched from his digital SLR Canon to the EOS-R, and he said he absolutely loves it. But Jurvant's paid by Canon, so I would have expected, I think he's an ambassador, so I'd have expected him to say that, and I was sort of, I didn't know whether, it's sometimes with the ambassadors, it's hard to know whether they're really telling the truth or not.
Right.
And I brought up about the dual card slot, and he said that he backs up his images to Wi-Fi as he's working, but I thought, it's not really, a thing that really I'd like to rely on, because I know
it doesn't sound too reliable.
But he seems to think that it works. I mean, his images, I always check his images, and his images are just as beautiful as ever. So there's no doubt that now the EOS-R has improved dramatically. I think what you're going to find, though, is their next version that comes out, if it's based on what the 1DX Mark III has, and they bring out a high-end Canon EOS-R, it could be amazing. Because I bet you any money the next one that they bring out has the dual guard slots. I bet you it probably has IBIS. You know, and I mean, there's rumors of 50, 60, 70 megapixel ones coming out. So it's going to be interesting if you're in the Canon market. But I think the telling thing with Canon at the moment is their lenses are just so good. That's the thing. Their lenses are unbelievably good.
That's what it is. The RF glass. And I'll tell you the truth, I was never a fan of adapting lenses in my life. I wouldn't even consider it in the past. But this EF to RF adapter that they give you when you buy the bundle, or if not, you got to buy it separately for $100. Number one, there's like 4 different versions of it. You have one that you could drop in a variable ND, and it works literally seamlessly. The only thing that you're dealing with is just a little bit more length on your lens. Like right now, I'm eyeballing the older EF 24 1.4, which seems like a phenomenal lens, but they're still asking like $1,600 for that thing. So I think I'm going to wait a little bit and wait till that goes down. But the glass is amazing. The RF glass is just outstanding. The build quality of it. I'm just a big fan. Really, the 15 to 35 was the biggest reason why I switched over. And I still love Sony. I'll tell you straight out right now, live on your show, if the A7S III drops and it fills in all the gaps that I personally had issues with, I'll switch back. I have no problem selling my gear and switching from. I'm a free agent, so until somebody scoops me up and makes me part of their company, I go anywhere I want. It's all about what makes you happy. It's not about specs or what looks good on paper. It's all about what makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way I feel too. So let's have a look at what. I'm just curious to see what some people are saying over in the chat here, because let's see if we can answer some of these questions.
Good.
I'm just going back to near the beginning. Most people are just saying, hi, what's up, Dave and Tim? Where are we? Just got to find some questions. The Z50 is where it's at. Well, that's still selling very, very good. It's interesting. I looked at the figures the other day, and I might talk about that on my Sony show on Friday. I might bring up some figures of all the camera sales in Japan from November, December. So I'll bring that up. There's some interesting thing there as well. Why not the
Dave,
Sony?
I got to cut you off real quick. We got a guy in here. His name is Josh Luciano. A dude. He's an up and coming YouTuber. He's right around in between. He's like right around 1,500 subscribers, and you wouldn't be able to tell it by his work. He has a very good channel, and it's all about photography. So I'm even recommending it to you, David. He has a good little thing going on there, and me and him plan on linking up too soon. So everybody go subscribe to Josh Luciano.
Beautiful. Good. It's good to give shout out to people. Now, Andre said, why not the A7 III? Well, you had the A7 III, didn't you?
I did, and you know what? At the time when I was vlogging with the A7 III, I got to be honest, for a studio camera on a tripod where it's stable, or if I'm on some kind of stabilizer, I loved it. But when you're actually holding it handheld, like I was having to vlog with a gimbal. Do you know how stressful that is to try to vlog and walk around with a big ass gimbal? You know, it was too much. I think for the A7 III, when hand holding it, the lack of good image stabilization plus the rolling shutter in 4K, it really just made my footage personally not usable. And you know, no flip screen. Flip screen is always nice when you're trying to film yourself, you know.
Now I noticed I am DeBrown said, so this is interesting, and you can answer this one. So he left a camera with bad IBIS to no IBIS, but you've said you found no real difference, haven't you? That's the thing.
Let me tell you something, and. For anybody out there, I said this on my Why I Switched video. For anybody out there that hasn't used the Canon EOS-R and the only reason they aren't grabbing it is because there's no IBIS in it, the EIS, electronic image stabilization, in the EOS-R is better for video than the A7 III's is when hand holding the camera. If you don't believe me, hopefully I can get my hands on another A7 III and I'll do a little comparison.
Well, that's how the iPhone works. That's all electronic stabilization. That's how these things work. I think that's the future. I actually think IBIS is probably going to disappear eventually, and it'll be replaced with this electronic stabilization.
Right, and then when you pair that up, because the EOS-R actually does have really decent EIS, and you pair that up with an image stabilized lens, I'm extremely happy with the image stabilization when handheld, and I never apply stabilization in post afterwards since I've been using the EOS-R. And then Canon has already confirmed that pretty much all of their future cameras are going to have IBIS in it. So pairing all three of those up, you're going to have really good image stabilization. But yeah, I have no gripes with the EOS-R's image stabilization whatsoever. Like I said, don't worry about what you see on paper. Do a little hands-on for yourself. Go rent one. Go try one out of the store. And that'll be the way you get the best answers that you're asking.
So John has asked too, he said, how was the transition? I'm considering the jump myself. Does the single card slot concern you? Well, we've already discussed that as well. But how did you feel like going... How did you say... Did you have trouble learning the menus, the systems that were there?
No.
So no problem?
No, and this is a guy that has bashed Canon so many times in my life. I made a video about how the G7X Mark III is one of the worst cameras I've ever used in my life. Was never really a fan of any Canon cameras beforehand just because I felt like they were always one step behind when it came to specs specifically for video. And again, just using it and the updates and the glass that they're coming out with, it's been nothing but a joy. Yeah, I have no complaints about this camera whatsoever.
Let me just see.
One thing that does concern me, though, the announcement of the 1DX Mark III kind of concerns me for the EOS-R Mark II, because if you look at that camera and the amount of money that they're charging for it, you don't even get dual pixel autofocus in 4K 60. And that kind of bums me out, because if they're not going to put that in their super duper flagship camera that costs an arm and a leg, are they really going to put 4K 60 with dual pixel autofocus?
You can get it though. It's in the crop mode. It's 4K 60. It does have the autofocus, but only in crop. So not in full frame.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it's not so bad. Yeah. I mean, I'd be happy if Sony would bring out a crop 4K 60, as long as they brought out 4K 60. So apparently it does have autofocus in 4K 60 crop, but full frame, no. So you have to be, so it does apparently, which is,
always
good.
A compromise.
Yeah. And it may be, because there's no full frame camera out there at this stage that has autofocus, it might be a processor thing. So, it may be that they just haven't got the processor to do full frame with, the autofocus.
Yes, that's the thing. We could all sit back behind our computers and comment on what each camera company needs to do. I don't know how to make autofocus. David, you know how to make autofocus? No. You know how to make it? These things might be extremely difficult to do. So some companies have the technology and maybe some don't. Maybe these companies aren't crippling their cameras as much as we think they are. It's just some people are better at things than others are, and Sony is very good at creating new technology. And like I said, I could jump right back when the A7S III comes out, but I need to see a few things first.
42 Pro said, if the next EOS-R has 4K 60 with no crop and IBIS, Canon will stay on top for the foreseeable future. And that's the interesting thing, whether, like I said, I don't think at this stage, I mean, you never know, but they may give us the 4K 60 with autofocus with a crop. I don't know now whether we'll get it without the crop, but, we just have to wait and see.
I'll take it with the crop as long as we got the autofocus.
Mohammed said, I like the Everything Man review. I know the B&H can send you camera gear, and you can always ask for gear from B&H. That's I mean,
no, I can't. I don't get, and the only thing, I don't get any type of cameras for free. Everything that I review on my channel, I pay for out of my pocket. I get sent like little rinky-dink stuff from Amazon that, honestly, at this point in my short YouTube career, I could give a damn about at this point. So that and road stuff, you know what, I'm lying, because I do have some gimbals up there. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, David. I don't know if you're aware of this yet. This is the Feiyutech Qing. It's Qing. This is like a weird, like, mechanical ball head that turns into a gimbal. It's like, I haven't even really got around to playing with this thing yet, but it's extremely intriguing. And then it comes with like this wireless remote that you could work things with. So I'm going to pop out a review on this pretty soon. But yeah, as far as being sent like free camera gear or stuff from B&H, Hey, I wish, man. There ain't nothing wrong with that. That's what we're in this for. We have to get some kind of compensation for what we do here.
So is that for time lapse and stuff like that? That gimbal, is it?
It's time lapse. You could just have it. You could just have it set right on top of your tripod and use it for photography and just angle things with the remote.
Yeah.
This thing is it's a very weird product, and you can kind of tell it's in the first stages of that it's a first model of it. But yeah, I'm interested in really kind of playing with this. I don't want to do a review on this yet until I'm extremely knowledgeable about it, and there's quite a few things I have to learn on this bad boy right here. But yeah, it's an odd little product. You throw your camera up here, and it has 3 ways that it can move electronically, and then you have this little gimbal handle here that's wireless. And you can actually hook the handle onto it and use it as a gimbal at the same time. This is a freaky product right here. So
is that heavy? It looks heavy. Is it heavy?
It's a little heavy. I wouldn't vlog with it if that's why you're asking, but it's not bad to throw on top of a tripod or a monopod. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think it should be all right.
Let's see what else.
You could beat somebody with this though. You could, no problem.
It looks interesting. I'll have to have a look at that. Let me just see what other people are asking. I don't know what David is using, but his audio is 10 times better. Maybe Skype. Yeah, it's probably Skype. I mean, the problem is, remember that we've got the Everything Man coming through here through YouTube, and then it's through Skype into YouTube. So I'm putting out the show direct, so it could be something to do with that too. I wouldn't count on that because we're relying on Skype going into YouTube. Harry said, "Everything Man, your photo vid channel is awesome, but I can't say that about you driving the manual transmission stick shift." What was that about? I didn't see that one.
It's on my channel, David. You gotta check it out. It's actually a really funny video. My girlfriend, she drives stick, and I don't drive stick.
Okay.
And I just surprised her one day while we were vlogging in the car and told her that she's gonna teach me right now. And I damn near broke her car. It's a very funny video. It's extremely funny, and it was a rough time. Yeah, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it.
I'll have to check that out. Let's see what else. Anyone else saying stuff? David is teasing us. He will switch to Canon soon. Laugh out loud. I'm not going to switch, guys. There's no way. But I must say, I am tempted to get not the EOS-R though. If they bring out a second version of that camera with dual card slots, I might get one to just have one. Because of the flip out screen and stuff like that, because I do vlogging and things like that, and I would like to have that. But there's no way I'm switching. I've spent too much money on Sony. I sold all my Nikon gear, and it cost me a fortune with doing that. I think it was $50,000 of gear I sold or something. And then, I'm not going to do that again. So I'm certainly not going to switch, but I am certainly interested in other cameras, that's for sure. Anything with technology is fun.
Right, yeah, absolutely, man. And oddly enough, I kind of made a vow to myself, stay away from the action cameras. I don't want to deal with the smaller stuff anymore. And then I go out and I just pre-ordered the 361R, the 1-inch edition, just because it's a 1-inch action camera. I got to see what this is about.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I've seen. You said that you sold your Osmo Action and also the Osmo Pocket for that, didn't you?
Not specifically for that. I actually sold that, and then 2 days after those items sold, they came out with the announcement about the the new 361R. But I found myself not using the Osmo Pocket anymore. I really, for me personally, the Osmo Pocket was best for B-roll, 4K 60 frames per second, bust it out at any time, get a shot. I didn't really care for it for vlogging. I actually like the Osmo Action better for vlogging. And I really do like the Osmo Action, but I like to get rid of my gear, especially if I know that we're approaching the next year of new gear being released. And I'm sure if there's an Osmo Action too, maybe I'll be interested in it. But I don't know, man. Now that they have a 1-inch sensor action camera, I don't know if I'll be able to look back.
Yeah, because the quality should be really good.
So I've got
the Insta360X. But so does this do 360 as well as your normal video modes, like what that does? Is that what that does?
Yeah, so it's a modular camera. So really, it's three. It's like each device on it is a cube. and you put one cube here, which would be your camera. So they have just a regular 4K action camera. Then they have the 360 camera, which has a lens on both sides of the cube. And then they have the 1-inch sensor that is, I guess, a deal that they're doing with Leica. And so you could actually pull them apart and slide them on. And on this side of it, you have your little screen, which you could flip each way, either way, whether you're vlogging or standing behind the camera.
Oh.
And then the bottom part that holds both cubes together is the battery. It's pretty impressive, man. It's been hard not to kind of like get excited for this. So
what's the cost
I didn't
on
pick up any of
those?
the other ones, but I'm definitely interested in the 1-inch one.
What's the cost on those?
The 1-inch was $549, but you know, again, you're getting a 1-inch sensor as opposed to a tiny little cell phone sensor that you get on like a GoPro or Osmo Action. So it was $549 US. Then I think the 4K was like $150 less, and then the 360 version was like, I don't know, 360. I have no clue. Something along those lines.
So so it should be much better with noise. Low light should be much better with those cameras.
Absolutely, and it's modular, so you could just buy little pieces that you need. And apparently, they're going to be coming out with all these different types of connections that you could do with this camera, and it really looks exciting. They have a mic jack that's probably going to take 8 months for them to release, just like every other company. But we'll see what happens.
I love it. Anthony says as soon as the A7 IV is released, Tem will be back.
Possibly. I have no, again, I'll repeat myself a million times on it. I'm a free agent. So if a camera gives me exactly what I want, I'll switch to it. Right now, the EOS-R is giving me more of what I want than any other camera that I've personally used.
Now that Creative Film says, that 15 to 35 RF lens looks great for vlogging and travel. I think, what's the Tamron one? Is the Tamron, because I know the Tamron was an amazing video lens. I can't remember. I think it's 15 to 35 or is it 16 to 35? I think it was 15.
I think it was 17. Was it 17?
I don't know. I can't remember. But I know the Tamron lens as well was a really great lens. But yeah, that's a nice focal length to be carrying around. Is that heavy, the RF one though? Is it a big honking lens?
Yeah, you know, it is pretty heavy, but it kind of like counters. It gives a nice little even balance to the camera itself, and I really don't mind working with it unless I have a lot of things in my hand. If I'm trying to vlog and then I have a bag and then I have to switch back and forth, it can get a little annoying, but it's not too heavy to the point where I'm like, this is unusable. I'm already used to it. It takes a 82 mil thread. I picked up the Polar Pro Peter McKinnon ND filters, which are absolutely the best ND filters I've ever used in my life. Again, no affiliation with them whatsoever. They're just a great product, and the in-body image stabilization in the lens, it works really well.
Oh, fantastic. Let's see if anyone else is asking things. Hero says if you only have 2 or 3 lenses, switching systems is no biggie really. How many Sony lenses did you have before?
I had like 4 or 5.
Oh, so you had a few.
Yeah, it wasn't a big hassle for me, and the good thing about Sony gear and Canon gear, I think particularly those two companies, they really do hold their value as long as you take care of the lenses themselves, so they're not banged up or scratched up. You know, you're really only losing a couple $100 when you resell it. So it really wasn't a big deal for me, but I pretty much sold everything. I don't have any cameras on my shelf behind me except for the EOS-R that I'm working with right now, and I'm happy.
Anthony also said, and I'd like your opinion, you may not have done testing on this yet, but Anthony also said their Canon high ISO is just not there yet. Sony wins this all day long. Have you noticed anything? See, the thing is, in practical use, half the time you can never tell the difference. I mean, have you noticed the high ISO is not as good as what the Sony is?
I think that... Really, that's kind of almost a loaded question, because it kind of does also matter how fast your glass is. You know what I mean? If we're talking about low light performance here, I don't know. You know, I haven't really filmed in dark situations where I had to really crank up the ISO, but I've had no issues with it. No grain, no type of noise in my footage whatsoever. I can't really remember a time where I've had an issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I deal with a hell of a lot of wedding videographers and stuff like that, and they're all using Canons and stuff, and I've never really heard them say, gee, the ISO is bad in their 5D Mark IVs or whatever they're using. I think that's more of the typical pixel peeper that tends to, you know, really delve in deep. I think the average shooter probably would never notice a difference. But anyway, it's an interesting comment that someone says there. What else have we got? I'm just seeing if there's other things. I wish Sony and Canon would have a love child called Sonon.
I swear to you, I was just thinking that about 2 days ago. You know, we see hip hop beefs all the time, and then they get squashed. You know, I want to see some more tech companies kind of do collaborations. It'll never happen, but how nice would that be?
I know, imagine it.
The best features from Canon and the best features from Sony, and just mush them all together into one beautiful camera. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, just imagine that. It would be incredible. Let me see if anyone else has said things. Phonomiac says people are all like Sony's better, whatever camera is better than Canon. So what works for him, and exactly, and that's the way I think. Like, I never ever bag anyone for using a camera. I mean, recently Aaron, who I do the show with, Anthony, went back to Panasonic. Now he's hilarious because Aaron has gone from Panasonic, then he went to Sony, then he sold his Sony and went to Fuji. Then he sold his Fuji and went back to Sony, and then he sold his Sony and went back to Panasonic again. But you know what? Good on him. He's happy with what he's using, and at the end of the day, who cares what anyone else uses as long as you're happy yourself? And that's.
Let me tell you something about Panasonic. Panasonic is one autofocus update away from being at the top of the game, in my personal opinion. They have everything you could possibly need in a camera besides phase detection autofocus. They're still working contrast based. I have no clue why they're trying to beat this dead horse and make it work, and nobody is interested in it. But that S1H is a monster of a camera. Yeah,
it's amazing. It is amazing. Yeah, you're right, and that I've said that all along. I can't understand why they haven't gone to phase detection. I mean, I had the GH5 for a while, and I love that camera. That was it still beats Sony in video now, and that camera is, I can't remember how many years old, probably 3 or 4 years old, but that camera would still beat. It had 4K 60. I mean, it would beat it now, but the autofocus sucked. And that was the issue with it. Unless you want a manual focus, which, see, Aaron doesn't mind because Aaron comes from a videography side, and so he's used to doing manual focus, and for him, that's not an issue. So if you don't mind that, Panasonic are amazing. I mean, you're
really
correct.
are. Everything is great about them. You got your log profiles, you have extremely good image stabilization, you got the flip screen, you have extremely high bit rates. We're shooting in 6K, 8K now at 60 frames per second. All they're really missing is that autofocus. So once they do, if they ever do switch over to phase detect autofocus and get that right, I can't see any camera company really saying that they're better, besides the glass part of things. I'm not really too familiar about.
No, the glass is good because you can also use Olympus, and Olympus glass is incredible. I think that's what Aaron's using for his really sharp. It's incredibly sharp.
What camera is he using?
Sorry?
What camera is he using?
He's using the G9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he wants the flip screen, which he's got. And the G9, and what I found, it's interesting because I found that when I was using the GH5, it shocked me how good it was in stills. Contrast detection in stills is incredible. And in fact, that was up with anything I'd used at that time for stills. It was amazing how fast it works, the contrast detection for stills. The issue is in video, it has to go past the image and then back. And so you get that strobing that, you know, or that sort of look that you see where, it moves in and out. And it's a problem, and that's what they need to get over. But for a stills camera, Panasonic are amazing, and I was shocked how good it was. But for video, the autofocus just sucked. It was not good. What else? I'm just seeing if anyone else has anything there. Tyrant says, all these comparisons even matter by midsummer when the A7 IV and EOS-R Mark II are out. We should all just be happy that there's so much competition. And and I've said that all along, that competition is great for us all. And I'm rapt when other companies do great things because it makes Sony innovate.
That's right. You could bet you're behind that GoPro and DJI are going to release their version of a 1-inch sensor action camera now, just because Insta360 came out with theirs. They have to
Yeah.
keep up now. They have no
Yeah.
choice. So that's the beauty about putting, other companies doing what they're doing and pushing the bar. People have to keep up or they get left behind. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, you would want people to, or companies to develop things, because if they stop, we'd still be stuck back with the A7. We would have never got to where we are now.
Right.
Nick Pick said, I think my GH6 may knock it out of the park if they do it. Yeah, well, you never know. The GH6, who knows, that hopefully they may get phase detection, but I'm not sure why Panasonic stick with that contrast detection. I just don't really understand it. I mean, it's got better, but it's still nowhere near like what Canon, Nikon, and Sony are doing, and that's the problem. But it is what it is, and I suppose it probably videographers don't care because they're manually focusing lenses anyway. So
right.
It's going to be interesting, and we've caught up with the chat there, which is really good. What else? So, do you think, like you said, you may not? You're just going to see what happens in the future, so you're not fully invested in either camera, whatever it is. You may switch back or whatever. I suppose you're in a good spot because you haven't got too much gear where it would be a massive cost to switch over. So,
right.
Yeah. So what would you do now if you had to buy a second camera? I mean, what would you buy?
Well, assuming that I'm just going to be sticking with Canon, I would probably either pick up another EOS-R or an RP, without knowing what's coming out in the future. Obviously, it's 2020 and we're all, waiting for the new lineup of every camera from every camera company. But just from what's available now, I would probably pick up, either a used EOS-R just to use as a second camera, second angle, or an RP. I mean, really, the only thing the RP is lacking is C-Log and I believe the high bit rates. I'm not sure about that, but it's not a big difference between both cameras. You could pick that up for $9.99. I mean, how could you beat that?
I know, it's incredible. Yeah, it really is incredible. I mean, like I say to people now, if you want to buy an A7R4 now, they're incredible prices because an A7R3 because the A7R4 was out.
Right.
If you want to buy an A9 now, they're a great price compared to the A9 II that's out. So you can get some pretty good deals now. The other thing too, people are saying in here about firmware updates for the A7. I don't think you're going to see 4K 60 put into a firmware update on Sony. I don't think that it wouldn't handle it. I think there's an issue with heat that's there because of the camera size of the body. Like they're talking about the A7S is going to have a heat sink at the back and a fan. So if they're talking like that, then it must be an awful lot of heat that they have to get that away. Remember, if you're dealing with things like the Panasonic SH1 and cameras like that, the body is much larger, so it can get that heat away, and that has a heat sink and fan in it. Let
me ask you something, David. Yep. Would you rather see a bigger, heavier body with being able to do more things from Sony, or do you like it being small and sacrificing a few features?
Well, there's two ways. Because I do Fusion, the Fusion camera that I carry, which I'll be shooting video and stills on the same camera, I wouldn't mind if it was bigger. If that would give me that ability to shoot the 4K 60 and higher bit depths, I'd go for that. But I'd still want my smaller cameras for my general photography and wedding work where I'm doing just photography, because I like that lightweight. I don't want to... I mean, I used to carry around a D4S, with the big lenses, and it was heavy. At the end of the day, my back hurt. So I don't want to go back to those big cameras anymore. I mean, like the the 5D... What is it? The new camera that came out, we were just talking about. 1DX Mark III looks incredible, but I don't want to go back to those massive bodies anymore.
No, I can't. I could never work with a camera that massive. Yeah. That's just that's. Imagine me vlogging. I can't believe Peter McKinnon used to vlog with the 1DX Mark II on a Joby Gorilla Pod. It's insane, but that's not for me either. I mean, I don't mind a little bit bigger. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the EOS-R is a little bit heftier than the X7 III is, but it's not bad. The grip is really nice on it. You get a really nice deep grip on it. I really don't have too much problems, but I don't think I would want to see anything too much heavier than what we're working with right now.
I think we're going to have to for the A7S III when that comes out, due to fit to fit or to get the heat out of that body, I think we've got to face the fact, or Sony have to face the fact, and that might be why it's taken so long, that they have to have a larger body to get that heat actually out of the camera, because heat is the thing that stops it from working. You know, it'll just shut down, and like Sony had a lot of issues with that early on. So I think you're going to find they're going to have to do something with the body and a fan or something like the SH1 has. So let's see what other people...
Which leaves room for failure.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Just trying to see. True. So the S line, but I think the focus there is shifting, as Sony has gone on record to say they are trying to satisfy what users want in the S3, i.e. 4K 60. Yeah, they've been saying that for a long time though, and they still haven't produced it yet. We're hoping it's going to be this year that they bring out something with 4K 60. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a completely different body. But we just have to wait.
I mean, 2020, we should be, if Sony, you know, they usually are the leaders in innovating when it comes to mirrorless bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be any time now where we're going to see 4K 120, right? I mean, it's not like 4K is brand new at this point.
Well, I think that's got to be it. I think the next camera that comes out for them has to be 4K 120. I've been sort of tipping that. I made a prediction last week in the live Sony show that I do that I think the A7 IV may have 4K 60 in crop mode, and we might only get it for 5 minutes or something like that, due to the fact it would probably heat if it went over that. I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the R4, and the only reason why I said that, in the A7 IV, the only reason I'm saying that is because when the A7 III was released, that camera was way ahead of anything else in the market. So I think Sony may want to do that again with the A7 IV. So it wouldn't surprise me to see 4K 60 in that camera. Now the A7S is going to be the one that will have the 4K 120 and the higher bit depths. I think that's probably what's going to happen with that camera, because they have to make the S version, which is the video version, different enough that you would still not just buy the A7 IV. So that, there's got to be some things different there that sort of would make you want to go from an A7 IV to an A7S. Because when the A7 III came out, there was no reason to buy the A7S2 anymore, because the A7 III was probably better in most ways, unless you were dealing with a million ISO. The A7 III was much better than the A7S2, which
affordable.
Yeah, and affordable. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. So it's going to be a big year ahead of us, I think.
What do you think? As far as video, this side of things, I kind of have a problem with Sony's basically capping their bit rates at 100 megabits per second in 4K.
Well, some say, look, and I heard someone say before that they don't mind that, but see, the issue is it is a problem, because it's not a problem if you say a type of fusion photographer or you do a small amount of video, but if you are a full-on videographer, it's a massive difference, because like I've said to people before, it's like the difference of shooting JPEG and RAW. If you've got these bigger bit depths that you've got there, well, then you get better gradients in skies. You can do proper green screen. There's massive differences. Now, you need a computer that can handle it, but you've got to remember part of the market too is also videographers, and they will want things like raw video, for instance, or they'd want things like having bigger bit depths, because that does make a difference if you're a videographer. For instance, you see it often when you shoot with Sony and you get skies. If you try and push the skies, you'll see the lines and the gradients in the skies, and that's due to the bit depth. That's all that is that's causing that. So if you had a higher bit depth, 200 would even help. But
especially if you're shooting S-Log 2 or S-Log 3.
Yeah, exactly. Because the second you start to, say, edit it or push it in an editor is where you start to get into problems if you're dealing with low bit depth footage. That's why you have problems when you're dealing with, a lot of the cheaper cameras, because the bit depth is so bad. But yeah, it's a pity. And I think they need to at least bring it up to 200. I mean, you're looking at, I know that the Fuji is 400. I think Nikon is up there. What's the Canon? What's the bit depth that Canon?
The Canon in 4K, don't quote me exactly, but it's above 400.
Yeah, well, there
you
go.
Very high. And there's like 4 different versions of every frame rate that you have. So you have AI, which is all intra, which is like the highest bit rate that you can get in video before moving over to basically shooting raw or 10-bit. Then you do get 10-bit external with this.
Yeah.
There's you get a lot higher bit rates with the EOS-R than I have gotten with the Sony, and you notice it, man. When I shoot in C-Log and I color grade, I'm like, wow, no noise. This is what a relief.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I say, if you're doing color grading, it's a massive difference. And like I said, particularly if you want to deal with things like skies and green screens. Green screens are huge if you haven't got the bit depths, the file size there. So yes, it does make a big difference. I know a lot of people always go, yeah, it doesn't make any difference, but I think they say that because they don't understand what it actually gives for videographers. It's like the difference. It's like people always say to me, why would you want 4K 60? But then they sort of shoot themselves in the foot, because then in another conversation they'll say they want to go for the A7R4. And why do they want to do that? Because they're getting the megapixels, the 60 megapixels. Well, that's exactly the same as when you've got a camera that can shoot 4K 60. You've got the resolution there if you need it. You've got that resolution to crop. One of the big benefits of the A7R4 is the ability to crop that 60 megapixel file and get multiple images inside that without having to change lenses, for instance. And that's what 4K 60 gives you, or 4K 120 would give you. It gives you that ability to crop, 100% or 200%, and also stabilize in post. It gives you that ability as well. So people shouldn't be so blinded by who needs 4K 60. You may not need it to actually output at that, but it's great to have it as an initial file to manipulate. And that's how I would love to shoot everything in 4K 60.
Yeah, absolutely. It is great. And I've learned to use the 4K crop on the EOS-R to my advantage. I use it basically to complement whatever lens I have. So, if you have that 1.6 times crop, all of a sudden you have a lens that zooms further than it really does. And that's kind of what I've been using it for, because you do get the dual pixel autofocus in 4K. It's just you're dealing with a crop. So I don't really mind it too much. Again, like I said, I upload everything. I upscale everything from 1080p to 4K and then upload it that way. And if you think about it, I was just talking about this in a video the other day. Look at films like The Wizard of Oz that are how many years old? They're from the 1940s or whatever it is. They were filmed in a 4:3 aspect ratio. I think the resolution was 720 by 480, so 480. And now recently in 2019, they just remastered it up to 4K. So upscaling 1080p to 4K, especially when dealing with YouTube's compression rate, you don't really notice it.
Yeah. And I've said to people before, see, cameras too, like the A6400 and 6600, for instance, they have a 6K sensor in them, but it's downsampled to 4K.
Right.
But the results you get from that camera if you shoot in 4K and then downsample to 1080 is much nicer than if you shoot in 1080. Because the thing with cameras like that is it's actually soft. It's much softer if you shoot in 1080p than it is if you shoot in 4K. The best thing you can do for YouTube is to shoot in 4K and then say do 1080p and then upload it. But I believe what I've been told is that YouTube's algorithm or YouTube's compression that it actually has works best with a 4K file than a 1080p file. So even if you have 1080p and you upres it to 4K and then upload it, you'll get a better result.
Absolutely. There's something about it. There's something about YouTube that uploading it, you could upload the same video twice. Upload it once in 1080p and then upload it in 4K. And even though your footage is shot in 1080p, it's going to look better uploaded to 4K than it is 1080p.
I don't know why
you think it'd be the opposite way around so that they save file sizes on the 4K, but I'm glad they do it that way,
And the other thing too is what I always tell people is that if you don't need it, well, just don't use it. It's like I always talk to people about the flip out screen. Some photographers say, well, I just don't want it, I'd never use it. Well, then keep it closed. It's that simple. If you don't want it, like if you don't want 4K 60, just shoot in 1080p, but at least it's there if you need it. And that's the thing that, I sort of have an argument about with people. But anyway, we all want different things, I suppose. We'll read a few more. So we're just on an hour, so we'll just do a few more and then we'll finish. Yeah, 42 Pro says 100 megabits per second S-Log is limited in color grading, and it is. Just like Anthony said, that it does affect, if you're dealing with the 100 megabits, it does affect grading, and that's what you've got to understand. And you see it particularly in skies and stuff. It's blocky. If ever you see an image and you look at the skies and it looks blocky, it's not a smooth gradient, that's due to that fact.
Yeah.
And 10-bit, obviously, I mean, if you can get 10-bit files with higher bit depth rates, I mean, yeah, it's incredible. So does the Canon, is the EOS-R, the 10 bits and the higher megabits, is that only to external drives, or is that internal onto the card?
The all intra is internal. The only thing that is external is the 10-bit. So you are shooting 8-bit internal, but again, you have high bit rates.
Yeah.
Even at 1080p internally, you have high bit rates. So the 10 bit is external. So
Okay.
Atomos, Ninja, or whatever.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, that's fine. Oh, g'day, Aaron. Good to see you in here. We're doing the show without you, but I'm hoping you're well. Yeah, Aaron has said there, yeah, we're okay. Well, that's fantastic, Aaron. We're glad to see that you're okay. I mentioned you at the beginning. Once the shaking slowed down, I'll be back on YouTube and Facebook. Yeah, well, hopefully it won't last too much long, Aaron. That'd be for sure. So, well, that's about it, because we're down to the end of the questions there, guys. So thanks so much. Look, thank you so much, mate, for joining us today. And I'm going to put your link down below, so people who haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Like I said, if you like Casey's camera conspiracies type of sense of humor, you'll also love this, because in a lot of ways it's very similar. When I saw them both, I just found you, actually, and when I watched it, I thought, wow, they've got this similar sort of quirky sense of humor, which I really like, and the reviews are really entertaining. So I like down to earth people, so it's that's probably why I had that connection with you. So I'll leave your link down below. So if you do want to subscribe, please do. But what have you got coming up? Anything interesting that you've got coming up?
Yeah, I just finished my LUT pack, which I've been working on for months.
Oh, cool! Tell us about
that. I got it's 20 LUTs. It's actually 21 if you shoot with Canon and you shoot in C-Log. I have a conversion LUT in there as well, and but this works with all cameras. I've tested it out on my iPhone. It looks great. I've tested it out on a Sony camera. It looks great, and my EOS-R, it looks great. And the main thing with that was, whenever you're using LUTs, sometimes I'll use a LUT to speed up my workflow. And I realized every LUT that I've ever bought or applied to my footage, it always just looks way overboard, super contrasty. You're getting terrible highlight roll-offs off your forehead or wherever the sun is coming from. And I've never been able to use a LUT at 100%. And this LUT pack is really designed to be used completely at 100%. Of course, you could dial it back if you want to, but yeah, I'm super proud of this one, man. I didn't want to just put something out there just to make a few bucks. I really wanted to work hard at it, and I wanted it to be kind of part of people's long-term workflow. So I'm very excited about that.
So are they for shooting S-Log, or how are you using those? Is it an S-Log?
So if you're shooting an S-Log or any other log from any camera whatsoever, you're just gonna first color correct and just do your exposure balance and your white balance, if your white balance is even needed at that point. So you're just gonna correct exposure, and then right from there, after you correct it, you're gonna grade it with maybe use an adjustment layer on top, pick from one of the LUTs, and I tell you the truth, man, they look great. I'm not just tooting my own horn. Like, I was surprised at how good, after all this work put in, actually they came out great. And I've even tried, even though you laughed before at this, I've even tried them on raw still shots.
Yeah.
And they look great. I work with Luminar 4 now, which is a phenomenal photo editing program. And they have like a little plug-in in there for LUTs. And I'm like, let me just see what my LUTs look like on these raw photos. And I went out on a little photo shoot the other day with my girlfriend, and we took some nice shots. And just applying the LUTs straight away, they looked amazing, and I was super happy with them. So I'm very pumped about that. I know LUT packs are a dime a dozen, but I'm extremely happy with this. I'm proud of this LUT pack. So they're
cool.
out now. I'll give it a link, David. Maybe you could throw it in the
Yeah,
description
put
with.
it in the link. I'll stick it down if you send me the link. What about
Yeah.
any videos? Have you got any videos coming up that you're reviewing or anything like that?
They're just lined up for days. There's always videos getting ready to drop. I am going to do a video on actually demonstrating what these LUTs can do, and I'm going to, get a screen grab of Final Cut and show you guys live on the spot exactly what you get out of these LUTs, so that you don't feel like you're wasting your money and you can see exactly what they do.
Yeah.
I have reviews up the yin yang. I'm going to be picking up some more lenses, so it's just camera stuff and vlog stuff nonstop. I never have enough time.
Now, just to let everyone know too, I won't be able to have the live Sony News and Rumors show on Friday because I'm doing a wedding, so I'll do it Saturday. So the live show won't be this Friday. It will be on Saturday at probably around the same time that this show started today. So that'll be on Saturday. I will have a video up tomorrow though. The A9 II review will be up tomorrow, and I've got a good comparison between the A9 and the A9 II, where I talk about the differences and things like that. So stay tuned for that. That'll be up tomorrow. And nice. Like I said, I've got a video. I've got a wedding on Friday, so I won't be able to post anything on Friday. I might do a live cross or something, but I've got a wedding on Friday, and I'll do the live Sony show on Saturday. So thanks so much, mate. Thanks for joining us today. I've really appreciated you popping on. It's been fun. I've enjoyed the talk. We'll have you again back on. Next time you might be here with Aaron, though. Like we want to start having people in, so it might be that we have 2 or 3 people popping in for live chats. So good luck with your channel. I'm sure.
I'm not the new Aaron.
Good luck with your channel. I'm sure now it's going to just take off now. I mean, once you reach that 10,000, it is a big stepping stone. So congratulations on that. And like I said, I'll leave all of the links down below so you can check out his page, and please subscribe. Just say David sent you or something. And that's about all, guys. So we'll see you on the next show. So I'll see you on Saturday for the next live, though. So I'll catch you all. Bye for now. I would say we were good together.